Board members have a copy of the agenda in front of them. There have been some changes to the agenda, so I'll entertain a motion for approval of the agenda.
I think we should just go through those because I'm not sure they have the newest that we've just done.
Do you want to highlight the changes?
Certainly. We are going to move up some of the topics for action, and there still will stay some topics under number 10. But we will move 10E under after 6C, so after the student and staff recognitions, and that will be the school forest agreement. The next one we will move under the school forest agreement would be 10C, and that is the Rivercrest Underpass financing. And following that one, we would move 10D, Rivercrest Underpass Phase 2 preliminary design, and authorize the final design. And then we would go back to the original amended agenda with approval of the January 8th regular and closed session Board of Education meeting minutes.
Okay, thank you. Any questions regarding those changes? If not, I'll entertain a motion for approval of the agenda as amended.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the agenda is approved. Next, we'll move down to student, staff, community recognition. We have 3 items here. So who's going to lead us? Sandy?
Yep, I'll be very brief on my part, and then I'm going to turn over to Principal Ed Lucas. We actually have 2 of the 3. Due to illness just this evening, Laura Gdostic and her team are not able to be here. So we'll start first with our highlight this evening of the 2007 Hudson High School Yearbook Best of Volumes. This is a national award. And with us this evening is Deb Lee, who is a business teacher at the high school. And she tells me this is about a third of her yearbook team that was able to be with her this evening. So I'll let Mr. Lucas introduce Deb and the team, and we'll get a little description of the award they received.
I'd like to introduce Deb Lee. She has been our yearbook advisor for as long as I have been here. And how many years, Deb? 20 some years. And during that time has done an absolutely outstanding job with the yearbook, and as you know, she has won numerous awards, and of course this is another one of those highlights. Something that I have to do on a regular basis is shoo Deb home because she puts in endless hours of working, and after I get done with the meeting, I'll get an email at 10 o'clock at night, and I'll have to email her back and say, go home. So she is extremely dedicated. This year we added Stephen Kennedy to our staff, and he teaches English and is also assisting Deb with the yearbook advisory position. So congratulations, Deb and the staff. At this time, I'd like to introduce Wendy Richters, who is the yearbook Life Touch representative, who would like to say a few words because Wendy has worked with Deb for a number of years.
Thank you. I'm Wendy Richters, and I know Debbie didn't know I was going to do this here tonight. It's a great honor for me, on behalf of Life Touch, to award Hudson High School and Debbie Lee and Michelle Haskins with this award. It's a national award. There's hundreds of high schools that we, print throughout the United States, thousands of high schools that we print throughout the United States, and they won this Grand Gesture Award. The time, 10 o'clock at night, that doesn't even do it justice, because I know she stays up till 3 in the morning. And the amount of time that this yearbook staff puts into this yearbook is amazing to me. And so I want to acknowledge them for that. So, Ms. Lee, if you could please come up. I wanted to provide you with this award. It's a showcase, your yearbook, the award, and a page from your spread that you can place in your classroom. Yeah. As well as.
Very nice.
Be very gentle.
Looks heavy, too, yeah.
Velcro doesn't hold well.
Now make sure Meg gets a good picture of that.
Good reflection of the glass.
Sure.
Haskins, who is my assistant last year and for the past 7 years, wasn't able to be here tonight, but she deserves so much credit. And now I'm looking for her to be because he's going to be with her for a couple of years. So, thank you so much.
Congratulations.
And we'd like to hear from Brandon, who's going to say a few words. He is one of the staff members of the yearbook.
I am Sarah, get up here. I am Brandon Meyer, and we'll introduce all of ourselves. We are, compared to last year, we are an editorial board this time, so it's kind of like a mini school board, I guess you could say. And we oversee, there's 4 of us, and we're missing Emily Rose. But there's 4 of us, so we'll make the all decisions in the book and the theme and different design stuff, so we'll introduce them.
I'm Michelle Rupert, and this year I am focusing in copy on the board.
And I'm Sarah Branson. I'm just an overall.
Just a little bit about this book. This one was a big step for us in 2007. For the past, I don't know how many years, Miss Lee has been working on this. She has always used template, one pike between pictures. You have black strokes. It's 1 point. It's strict. You could take it from any other yearbook and it'd be the exact same. This one is a different one. This one we decided to go just out of the box. We decided to go with the design team this year. We had 4 designers, and they designed every page in this book. We would give them a blank page. They'd put all the pictures in it, and then they'd write the copy, and then they'd give it to the designers, and then the designers would transform it into something like this. And you can see from just the varying types of pages that we've had. This is our fashions page. From different conferences and stuff that we've been to, I have noticed that this page, the fashions page, is one of the pages that schools around this area and the nation look forward to in our yearbook. So I think that's kind of an honor to us that we show a different diversity and stuff. So we're not just a typical Midwestern school. We are more than that. So it's a big thing with this one. And then for different sports and stuff, this is our own radars here, you can see. And it's the amount of time and emotion put into this book really reflects last year's class. The designers, Corey Erickson, Samantha Giaffonte, Ani Christensen, who is in, Alicia, and Ani now this year. She's part of our design team. And Sonia Knutson really put in above and beyond the effort that most people would put in for something like this. And it is an honor working with Miss Lee and Miss Haskins and now Mr. Kennedy for this. They've been on this for 2 years, and I kind of snuck in, so I've been on it for 4, and it has just been the most wonderful experience I've ever had. And on behalf of the yearbook staff, we want to thank the school board for your support, your just overall feeling that we've got from you guys. The staff, Mr. Lucas, who's right here, and all of the associated principals, Mr. Toll, Mr. Huffman, and Ms. Langer. And the community, without the community, we wouldn't have our book. The community buys pages and sections to help pay for our book. So they are a big, big part in this too. And we'd also like to thank Miss Lee and Mr. Kennedy and Miss Haskins, because without them, we wouldn't be anything.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Say, Brandon, could you introduce the other students, or is somebody going to do that next?
The other students?
Are there other students associated with the yearbook here?
Can you guys all stand up? We have, this is, like what Wendy said, this is probably about a third, close to half. If you guys just want to go around quick and speak loud and say who you are and maybe what you're really specific in. Sam?
Well, I'm Samuel Gator.
All right, thank you. One last request. Is it possible you could just let us take a look at that? Could you just
Sure.
pass it around? And congratulations to students and staff and Mrs. Lee, Mr. Kennedy, and Michelle for their hard work on this. Thank you again.
I think this is a great example of the testimony of what students can do when we empower them. And as our board and as our community moves on to HSD 2025, one of the concepts we've been talking about is thinking outside the box. This is a prime example of that task, and we can see what is accomplished once that happens. Next on our recognition this evening, I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate Jerry Yucatol for being inducted into the Wisconsin Coaches Hall of Fame. And to tell us a little bit about Jerry, I would like to introduce Neil Hatfield, who nominated Jerry.
I guess to go back a little bit, I have to tell a short story here. I remember when I was young, that was a while ago, a little bit. I'd come home from school as a teenager, and my mom would often have a snack ready, and then there'd be the paper sitting there, the Chippewa Herald would be sitting there, and so I'd be done with football practice, and before I went off to farm chores, I'd have to go and accomplish the task of reading the sports page and wolfing down a few cookies and stuff. And I'd always read about Jerry Yucatol and what he was doing at Chippewa Falls McDonald and all the national records that they were breaking in passing statistics and everything else. And the community of Chippewa Falls looked so fondly upon Jerry that I was always really inquisitive about what this person was really like. And then to fast forward, I guess, all the way up to 2002 when I came to Hudson High School and the cookies had somewhat taken their toll a little bit. I remember him coming to football practice and watching, and I looked to the outside and I just thought, wow, I was kind of nervous. That's the guy I always read about. And I have just become so impressed by his consummate nature as a professional. You will not find a person who's so universally loved as an educator. And he's also someone I think that is a visionary in his field. He's constantly reading up on new books and new ways, new approaches to strength and conditioning and health and things like that. So I really felt compelled because of Jerry's background, because he had taken teams to state finals and still holds national records. His teams hold national records, and his players. I really felt compelled this past fall to sit back and nominate him for this award. I think it's really interesting because if you really sit back and think about what Jerry does, he really embodies everything that educator should, because he's not only wonderful in the classroom, but he's also somebody who steps outside that realm and really goes the extra mile for kids. I wish you could see in the mornings he's driving in very early on his behalf, and we get alumni who are stopping by and working out, who are off on the greater pursuits. In fact, it was really interesting this past winter watching Eric Vanden Heuvel, who's a tackle for the University of Wisconsin, come in and work out, and Jerry is instructing him on how to jump and things like that. And here's this big 6'7", 330-pound person, and Jerry's telling him what to do. And I'm just thinking that guy could probably destroy Jerry very quickly if he wanted to. But nonetheless, he is very, very well known for his accomplishments, and most importantly for the class individual that he is. So he will be enshrined not only into Camp Randall Stadium, but also into Lambeau Field. So you have an opportunity to take a look at his name engraved and stuff like that. So congratulations, Jerry.
Jerry, yeah, you're going to have to come up here and say a few words. That's part of the deal here. And another question, are you still flying?
Yes, I am.
Are you? Oh, okay.
As soon as possible when the weather, takes care of itself.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. If you have any questions, I don't know. I appreciate everything that Neil said, and it was probably a long time ago when you were reading those papers. Long time ago. Anything else?
Well, Jerry, I'll just make a quick comment that I know how long he's been in the district because I had a son that played on Jerry's first football team when he came to Hudson, and unfortunately we didn't give him the talent that he probably should have had that first year.
Well, we did the best we could, and those guys worked hard, so that's all you can do.
The kids did not have a winning record, but they surely respected you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your contribution. Okay, we'll move on to topics for action. The school forest agreement. Tim, are you going to cover that one?
Yes. Item 10E in your board packets, page 21. And this is the agreement that we will be entering into with the city. And the city has agreed through Cindy Landers, science teacher at the middle school, to graciously allow us to use the forest land that they have, or the wooded area that they have just south of the middle school, for a school forest. And so to accomplish that, this is a land use agreement that we will use, and this has been reviewed by the Facilities and Grounds Committee, and it has a lot of the normal things that you would have in it. And of course, the city owns the land, so we drafted that agreement around that premise, and it's a pretty straightforward agreement, and I won't get into any detail unless, of course, you've got questions on that.
Are there any questions for Tim regarding the forest agreement? Okay, I'll entertain a motion for approval of school district entering into the forest agreement with the city.
Mr. Chair, this did come out of the Facilities Committee, so I'll move that we accept and approve the land use agreement between the School District of Hudson and the City of Hudson for the parcel south of the middle school for use as a school forest.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion's approved. We'll move on to the next two items regarding the underpass, Rivercrest underpass financing and the Phase 2 preliminary design and authorized final design.
Mr. President, if I could, I'm just going to ask again to request to remove myself from these two items. They do associate with the YMCA. While I don't believe there's any conflict of interest, I'm going to ask to remove myself from this discussion and from the room for the purposes of having no appearances of a conflict.
Okay, thanks, Tom. We'll note your removal from this discussion. We do have some requests to speak to the board, and it looks like we have 4 items for requests. We'll start with Steve Hermson. Steve, if you could come before us and give us your name, address, and then go ahead and present your views. If possible, as you know, we try to limit the discussion to roughly 5 minutes.
Sure.
You're down to 4 minutes. Just teasing.
I'm here to, I can't believe this, I lost my notes. I'm here to ask that the board reconsider this plan that you're getting ready to go forward with. And the reason I'm asking this is it's $250,000 that you guys are planning to take out of the fund balance. I'm sorry, $125,000 is what you're talking about taking out of the fund balance to go towards this tunnel. The reason I'm in opposition to this is because, one, the Y is a private organization, and I don't believe a government entity should be partnering in this way using public dollars to fund this, since it will benefit solely the Y. Now, the argument we're going to hear tonight will be that the school district, the superintendent will say that the school district and the children benefit because they can go across to that. However, every time a child goes over there, it's another dollar in the Y's pocket. I haven't heard anything, them saying that they're going to offer all of this training or any program that goes on over there for free. So, in my opinion, I believe if there's going to be any tunnel or any access and ease of use of the Y, it should really come out of the Y's budget, all of it. It's obvious that I know you guys have tried for quite a while to get the businesses to chip in and to donate towards this thing, and it's, at least from our viewpoint, from my viewpoint from seeing it, you guys have tried, it's not coming. And I think it's simply because the economy is not there to support it. We haven't heard anybody come out here and say, we're all for this tunnel, let's put it out there. But I have had people come up to me out of the blue and ask me to come up here and say, please stop this, do what you can to stop it. I said, hey, you can come down here and speak just like I can. Well, it's an elderly couple, they didn't want to come in here. But there's a couple other things I think you guys need to be mindful of. One, from a board standpoint, what's going on here is and that was the little note that I was going to pull up, is that you guys said you care for, in your little flyer that you put out, you said the Board of Education cares about student learning and our taxpayers. Now, the interesting thing about that is programs going to the Y are non-essential. They're not, there's no mandate from the state that says we have to fund a tunnel to go over there. And given that, I'm sure you guys have watched this, 19 homes in the Hudson School District went up for sheriff's sale this month. We've had 82 foreclosures so far this year in St. Croix County. Last year was 515, the year before that 447. The year before that 212. I would have brought the bankruptcies in, but you guys wouldn't have wanted to hear that. I just think the economy is not here, and you haven't got the business support, and so why are you laying this on the taxpayers? It just doesn't make sense. And so I would ask that you guys, if you're going to go forward with it, and I'm not saying stop, I'm just saying encourage the Y to foot the whole bill. And just for another little thing that was interesting to find out, the Y and all the property that they have down there for the camp pays taxes to the Troy Township. The Y up here where the building is, where the exercise, the pool and everything, pays the city zip. And the two of them are pretty close in value. So I found that rather interesting. Maybe then what we could do, since we have a few board members from Troy Township, ask Troy Township to kick in some money from the tax revenues they get from the Y. That's all I got. So just something to think about.
Thanks, Steve. The next request is from Stu Erickson. Stu, if you want to come forward.
Well, thanks, Mr. Chairman and Board, for letting me speak tonight. I'm here to advocate for the building of the tunnel and that the Hudson School District pay for half of the tunnel in conjunction with Camp St. Croix. I'm a resident of the school district of Hudson. I'm not directly involved in any way with the Camp St. Croix Y, so I shouldn't have a conflict of interest here. I'd like to say that this LEED certified building that's going to be one of the top buildings in the upper Midwest in conjunction with the Camp St. Croix will forever be attached at the hip. And in the same breath, anytime this school and the Camp St. Croix are going to be talked about in public, the two of them are going to represent the premier environmental education facility in the upper Midwest. And to say that, we shouldn't join these by a safe corridor is very foolhardy, I believe. I think it needs to be done this spring when the road construction is going on. The Camp St. Croix is doing an extensive capital campaign. It's going to be funded by members of the community throughout the St. Croix River Valley. So the funding will be coming out of Hudson people's pockets to fund the other half of the tunnel. I was there at the groundbreaking for the school, and to think that we can have people scurrying across Highway F like we did the day at the groundbreaking was absolute chaos in the half hour that occurred. And even in that half hour, it's lucky that we didn't have a bad accident there. And every day there's going to be kids going back and forth from the Camp St. Croix and the middle school. There's just no denying that. I also think there's an opportunity long-term to link in with the county bike system that's being proposed, and that could act as both the school and the YMCA could act as a node for the county bike system, and that tunnel is an absolutely essential component of this facility. And it can't be overlooked as a facility component for pedestrian safety, bicycle safety, and utilitarian use. And I encourage you to do this now while the cost will be the most affordable point in the construction phase to do this. And that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Stu.
Well, one last note. I'd like to say is the cost of one accident of a pedestrian, whether it's an adult or school-age kids coming out of there, is going to way exceed the cost to the Hudson School District.
Thanks, Stu. Say, Stu, could you give us your address information?
Yep.
Just so we have it for the record.
Number 10, Burkmose Park, Hudson, Wisconsin.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And prior to Stu was Steve Hermson, 813 Harborview Road in Hudson. So we'll go on to the next request, and it's Kurt Weiss.
My name is Kurt Weiss, and I live at 613 Cedar Drive North in North Hudson. I guess to hear Mr. Erickson say that it's a safety issue and it was could it be a calamity, somebody going across the street there and on the highway, maybe we should have thought about that before we built an elementary school there. Maybe we should have just added on to one of our existing facilities. We wouldn't have this mess, would we? But you guys were, pretty much set on doing this. And it's amazing to me that this tunnel came up immediately after the referendum, but I don't ever remember the tunnel being discussed before the referendum. You guys never brought it up. That's so much for open government, and all of a sudden it came up out of nowhere. It's hard for me to imagine that you guys didn't talk about that before you passed the referendum. The other thing that's amazing to me is Mr. Holland's not here for this discussion. He says he doesn't have a conflict of interest. Why isn't he sitting at that chair then? But the main thing that I want to talk about is that if you people think it's such a great idea, and if Mr. Erickson thinks it's such a great idea, how come there's no money in the pot yet? How come there's no money in there? I mean, why is it so easy to spend other people's money? So you're okay going to tell a widow living on Social Security that you're going to take some of her money for this tunnel that benefits the YMCA. You're okay with that. It makes you feel good to spend other people's money. Let's put our money where our mouths are. I see 12 people up here. Mr. Holland can come back up. Mr. Erickson now can chip in. $125,000 divided by 13 people, that's less than 10 grand apiece. It's just that easy. Write a check, just like you're expecting the widow who's on Social Security to do, and it's over with. In fact, maybe the Star Observer representatives here, maybe they could pitch in some money too, since they're behind you guys 100%. But you got to think, if businesses haven't given you any money, maybe there's a reason for that. Maybe they don't think that's a worthwhile project. So as you discuss this tonight, maybe the audience that's watching this can say, well, these people really believe in this because every one of them is writing a check for $10,000 tonight.
Okay, the next one is a request is from Bill Friedlander. Bill, do you want to come forward, and if you could give us your address information as well?
I'm a short guy, I got to pull this down. I'm Bill Friedlander, live at 1015 12th Street here in Hudson. My interest in speaking with you folks is, very often, well, not very often, but occasionally you have two programs that are both of interest and value come to an intersection. And the two programs in this case are the new Rivercrest School, which is designated as a green facility and the emphasis on ecology, and the Y Camp is mounting a multi-million-dollar fundraising to upgrade their facilities, largely to accommodate ecological programs and studies. The only thing that's hindering that intersection is the fact that there's County Road F in the way, and by putting in an underpass so that the two facilities can communicate, you allow the children who will be in the elementary school there to benefit from the Y Camp's facilities in ecology, outdoor studies, and that sort of thing. So it makes a lot of sense to allow both organizations to help each other, and I think it'll be a tremendous asset to our young kids to be able to go across the street, even for short periods of time, take advantage of the WISE ecology and outdoor programs. So my vote is in favor of doing the underpass.
Thanks, Bill. Appreciate it. Okay. I don't believe there's any other requests to speak. So, Mary, do you wish to?
I do. I would turn your attention, since we're out of order here, so you can find the materials, to page 14 in your board materials through 17 in regard to the underpass and financing of that. Back in May of 2007, the board approved a partnership with the YMCA of Greater St. Paul, which the Y Camp is part of. And we were looking at developing collaborative programs that would bring the best of both organizations together for the benefit of our students and for our community, to enhance those assets for our community. And that was the vision that the partnership was created. And at that time, we basically had a concept with a vision without the details. But we believed that bringing these two organizations together would be an advantage, a big advantage to our community. Now, Rivercrest, being across from the Y Camp, certainly has moved forward. Its development has continued in the area of being a green, sustainable school. And we have continued to develop the opportunities that we see that program at Rivercrest delivering to our students. And so I want to talk about that and how it relates to Camp St. Croix, because this is what the tunnel allows to happen. And there's now more specifics, certainly not fully developed yet, but much more in what we are envisioning to happen as a result of that. Sandy Kovach and a group of teachers and Pat Hodges, the principal of Rivercrest, have been meeting for some time on developing an environmental sustainable curriculum to start at Rivercrest and then expand at our other schools. The school forest that we've approved this evening will be an opportunity certainly for the middle school in Hudson Prairie to move forward with that, as well as other opportunities that we have at each of our schools. But starting at Rivercrest, we have a very unique opportunity because of the site and because of the location and because of its connection with the Y Camp. The opportunity exists for our students to go back and forth both at our site at Rivercrest, but also for the ecosystems that are represented at the Y Camp beyond the ones that we have at Rivercrest, for expanded learning opportunities for our students. And right now we are creating that curriculum with the help of UW River Falls, UW Stevens Point, and this committee has been out and looking at best practices in this area to develop for us and to use not only our site, but again, Camp St. Croix. They visited Garlow Environmental Magnet School. It's a K-4 school, Sandy. And it has a partnership across the street with Dodge Nature Center. And we've been looking at how their curriculum has been developed. And I know the committee came back extremely excited, and I heard all about that. And what they were excited about were opportunities that we had not envisioned before, and looking at learning in a different way. We look at having naturalist staff from Camp St. Croix make visitations to Rivercrest classrooms, and eventually at some time expanding that to our other buildings. We're looking at school-age care being delivered by the YMCA. First, probably at our site in the morning, and then in the afternoon. I don't know if every day it would be over at the Y Camp for an environmental experience, but certainly multiple times during the week. And that's on a daily basis. We are looking to Summer School 2009 for starting, having 2 elementary summer school sites, one on the north side of the district and one south of I-94, obviously Rivercrest, where we would offer elementary summer school in the morning, the same at both sites. And then in the afternoon on the north side, we would have school-age care as we do currently. And then on the south side at Rivercrest, we would have our students go over to the Y Camp and have an environmental day camp. So an extended learning opportunity, and that would be open to parents making a choice between the 2 sites where they would like their child to be. Additionally, we have talked about community activities. 2 different areas for that: community health and fitness events. Certainly in our community we have events now, and we use, say we have a 5K race or a 10K race or something like that, and we use the streets in our community, and this would allow us an opportunity to have a secure environment. We're using the trail that we have at Rivercrest, the underpass, and using the trails that they have at the Y site, being connected for community events, but we've also talked about having family events to capitalize on the sites and the opportunity on a regular basis that we sponsor. And then we've also talked about community environmental sustainable events. We really haven't gone further on that one at this point. Certainly research supports the academics of academic benefits of an environmental learning experience. It connects with what we're talking about at HSD 2025. One of the graduate outcomes we are pursuing right now and developing is environmental sustainability. We have a draft of that, and that will be coming back to you when it's further developed. So this allows us to develop our students to make real-world connections between science, math, problem-solving, arts, global studies, and technology. And so I know Sandy's committee is looking at that integrated applied approach using the environmental opportunities at the Y camp as well as on our own site. Now that takes us back to the underpass itself. And why now? We had, and I'm just historically, we had determined that we would fundraise for the underpass. And we're still committed to fundraising for that overpass. But we have a time issue. We have, it's been stated that we've been out and people have turned us down and so forth. And actually that has not happened. We have been pursuing different opportunities in grants and so forth and making connections, and we actually started a grant, but we decided that the possibility for us getting that grant was not high, and our efforts would be better in other areas. So we've changed that. So our plans changed, but the fundraising is still on the table. So as I move forward to making a recommendation, please know that fundraising is still the intention of the district. So that is part of the recommendation as well. But as we move forward, we have this timing issue with the construction of County Road F. And that's going to happen in spring, and it will be turned into a five lanes in front of the Rivercrest entrance. We thought it was a problem to cross 2, and we will now have 5. When that road is torn up is the best time to put the underpass in, and it has the lowest cost, so it's most cost effective. The estimated cost is $250,000, and if we don't do it at this time, we know that it will cost more. So certainly it is cost effective to do it, and our half of that is $125,000, with the Y also picking up the other half of the $125,000. So the time works with cost and keeping the cost lower. And also, if we think of the inconvenience, this road is a major thoroughfare in our community. To have it ripped up once, it will be very inconvenient for people that travel it on this board multiple times during the day, and other residents and our neighbors as well to our community. If we considered fundraising first, we could not do it with the construction of this, with the construction of County F. So the inconvenience would occur twice if we were going to fundraise before we actually funded the underpass. So there's the concept of cost, keeping the cost low, and also the inconvenience to many of our community residents. So there's a time dilemma. We don't have the time to fundraise now. We're still committed to fundraising. But I am recommending to you that this underpass is the only way we can use this, or we can use the opportunities that we've talked about in curriculum, the way we've talked about it in our school-age care program, and the opportunities that we've talked about with our partnership with the Y. This is the only way that we can really expand and develop those opportunities. I believe that we either put the underpass in now, or we really need to say we're not going to do that in any near future because of the restrictions that I just talked about. So I'm recommending to you that we fund the underpass with the fund balance, which would not be any additional cost to our taxpayers. Half of the underpass at estimated $125,000, that we go out to collect private funds and donations in multiple ways with a fundraising plan, and that this would be contingent on the Y supporting and paying for half of that underpass, and that we move forward with an agreement with the Y to work out all of the details that I just talked about.
Okay, thank you, Mary. Other board members?
Mr. Chair, I just have some quick comments, and I apologize for my voice this evening. First of all, I would forward to the rest of the board that the Facilities Committee is forwarding a positive recommendation to fund the $125,000 out of the fund balance, fully realizing that we are confident that the remaining balance of the $125,000 can be secured. Secondly, I would concur with what Superintendent Bowen-Egebrotten said, that I am, in the discussions I've had in the community, various companies, various foundations, I have not had anybody say in a negative tone that they would not participate. The one thing I have heard is that they would like to have the school district commit to the underpass before they go to their board of directors, to their funding sources as well. I think that's fair. The third and final comment I would really make is more to Mr. Hermson's comments, and he talked about reference to a government entity, and I would tell Mr. Hermson that there is certainly precedent for that to have occurred. And in a northwest suburb of the Twin Cities, there is a partnership between the city of Monticello with a city hall there. There's a library there. There's a community recreational facility. There's a YMCA there. But I would point out most importantly to Mr. Hermson, there's also a National Guard there. And out of that facility have been members serving in Iraq. So I think the precedent is well established that certainly a partnership between the Hudson School District and the YMCA for a curriculum for elementary students is certainly in a positive, and it's certainly, I think, within the framework of being able to be done.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Minnick. Any other board comments?
I have two questions and a couple comments. So, first of all, how much more is it, do we know, to do it after the road, to do it later? Not that we know the future cost, but we're talking it's going to cost us $1,000 more, or is there any estimate of what it would take to kind of redig it up after the fact?
Yeah,
it seems to be we're putting a time element on this that I'm not completely. I just need more information on.
Yeah, we did check and had Stevens engineers do some calculations, and what they came up with was somewhere between $35,000 and $40,000 more to do it after the roadway is in.
At today's cost.
At today's cost, correct.
Okay. And the second question was, do they actually have to tear up the road again when they put the tunnel in, or are they just going to excavate underneath the existing road?
The roadway would have to be torn up. It would have to be closed approximately 2 days.
Okay. I'm very supportive of this partnership with the YMCA, but I'm actually really I'm opposed to spending the way we're funding this right now, or the suggestion is. I actually believe that we have to acknowledge the fact that we're under uncertain economic times in our tax base and our shareholders. We don't know what the valuation is going to be in the district as we go forward to the next budgetary cycle. So although I'm completely supportive of that, this would be a good thing to do, I would challenge us as a board and as an administration to figure out how we're going to pay for it. It's always easiest to go in the fund balance to pay for it, but can we challenge ourselves to find another way? Is there something that we can, is there some dollars that we can allocate from our current budget to pay for this so that we're making decisions as the board that we want to spend our money on this type of a project and where we're going to allocate the dollars from? So I would challenge us to do that, or I would ask that we ask the YMCA to pay for it, or I would say we don't do it right now. I just think I think this is a nice thing to do, but is it really a must-have? And if we have $300,000 or $125,000, are we better supported to put another teacher in the new district or the new school? I'm just, when I look at it holistically, I'm just a little uncomfortable right now with how we're allocating the dollars. When we put this up for the for original vote, we were pretty adamant that it was coming from non-taxpayer dollars. So I'm not supportive of the current proposal.
Okay, thanks, Brian. Cindy?
Quick point of clarification, then a question. When we have to be careful when we talk about how we spend dollars and what we could spend them on, opportunity cost, because this is a one-time expenditure and the purchase of additional teaching hours is an ongoing commitment, so it's not the same kind of expenditure. So I just wanted to recognize that. Although I appreciate some of the things that you said regarding how we spend money, then the question that I have is, has this been talked about in the Finance Committee? And what did they say about it?
Okay. Mark, do you want to cover that piece?
Sure, be happy to, Dan. The Finance Committee, minus Mr. Holland, that'd be Dan, I did discuss this last week, and we are supportive of this. I guess I can make, I'll make my comments right now. We have two of our community's greatest assets, one of our largest elementary schools and the Y Camp. And if we ever have any hope of utilizing, collaborative programming, this is it. And I guess I don't see any delay being in the district's best interest. I guess, if I want to focus on just one thing, let's just think of just one thing. And that is, we're going to have a facility, a site here with over 500, maybe close to 600 kids at capacity across from the Y Camp. Now, I was a kid once, and I'm sure a lot of people in this room were too, and the idea of these kids won't be scampering across those 5 lanes to go over to the Y, whether we have a tunnel there or not, I think is ludicrous. It won't be if an accident will happen, it'll be when. I believe that. Let's get this done now. I'm quite confident that the ultimate cost of taxpayers will probably be nil. We've got some fundraising and grant opportunities in the works. I'm confident that that'll happen. To delay it, I see no point. The synergy of these two programs is going to be fantastic and be wonderful for the whole community. So,
we've been pretty protective of our fund balance over the years, and is our fund balance where it currently sits going to be able to support both putting this money up front until the fundraising can be raised behind it, and also the uncertainty of our economic times, as Brian points out? Is it healthy enough to support both of those things?
In a word, yes.
Cindy, that's a big question. There's a lot of stockbrokers that would like to know the answer to that. Tim, do you want to take a stab at that?
Sure. Fund balances remain strong, and to take 125,000 out, in my opinion, right now, it can support that. But as Dan said, any future, forward-looking, I can't predict what would happen in the future. But at this point, we've got a strong fund balance.
And Tim, I know you also looked at whether it was going to stay within our policy in relationship to the percentage of the operating fund.
Right, yes. We'd still, with taking that out, still be within the policy of 25 to 30% of operating expenditures.
Mr. President, one more comment.
Brian.
I just, and this will be a continual message from me personally, is anytime we're adding new, I'm not opposed to this. I think it's, Mark, I'm with you. Dick, I'm with all the board members on this, of doing this, and the importance of it, is I would like to see, when we put out new programs, what are we not going to do? I think we have to start making decisions when we want to advocate for something new, is how are we going to reallocate those dollars? And I don't think going to the fund balance is the appropriate way to put new programs in place. I think we should make hard decisions, just like our own budgets for our families. Is we want to do this, what are we not going to do to pay for it?
Thanks, Brian. Dick?
Mr. Chair, if I could respond to Mr. Bell. I agree with Brian in that respect. But we wouldn't be funding another program, and the $125,000 that we're talking about would temporarily come out of the fund balance, but then I am very, very, very confident would be replaced through private fundraising. So there really would not be any taxpayer dollars, Brian, and to say if it would be a 30-day, 60-day, 90-day period, I wouldn't say that, but I am very confident based on the discussions that we've had that on the backside we can come in through private fundraising to raise that $125,000 and I think be responsible to replace that back into the fund balance. The issue that we've had is the discussion with the foundations, companies, private individuals is that they want to see this board step forward and take the initiative to approve the underpass before they'll step forward and make any type of allocation toward that. And I understand, and I think that's fair.
Thanks, Dick. I also sit on the Finance Committee, and like Mark said, I joined in the approval of this. And as many of you know, I'm a big guardian of the fund balance, recognizing a lot of the points that Cindy brought out in terms of the uncertainty of the economy, the uncertainty of state funding. Certainly we don't like to get into a short-term borrowing situation. The fact that it gives us a great credit rating for the future of this school district. That said, I always have to try to balance my feelings towards that as well as what's in the best interest of the school district. To me, this is in the best interest of the school district. We've always had a good partnership with the YMCA, not only with this school, but with all of our schools. And it's just not the YMCA. We've had good partnerships with other private entities throughout the school district. The orchestra program comes to mind as a project that we went outside the school district to get support to get that off the ground. So we do have a tradition of working with our partners in the community, and I think that's a healthy thing to do whenever we have an opportunity to seek a partnership with a private entity or another public entity. So, but probably most important to me as a school board member and as someone with children is that this is a safety issue. These kids are going to the YMCA during the summer. They know what the YMCA is all about. And for me to think that at the end of a school day that maybe a kindergartner or first grader, might want to gravitate in that direction despite all of the security measures that we take, it just doesn't make sense to me that we don't do it now. So not to mention the points that Bill brought out and that Stu brought out in terms of what other things that we can do with this opportunity. So to me it is an opportunity. I fully support it. I hope my fellow board members support it. And I guess that's it. So any other board member comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion for this item.
Dan, since it came out of my committee, the Facilities Committee, I'll put a motion in front of the board. I'll make a motion that the school board approve the allocation of $125,000 from the fund balance to be matched in an equal amount from the YMCA Camp St. Croix for the construction of the underpass under County Road F, to link Rivercrest Elementary School and Camp St. Croix.
And I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Just so that board members understand that our funding is contingent upon the YMCA's approval of the same amount. Is that correct?
That was the intent of my
Okay.
motion, that equal matching, or equal amount coming from the YMCA.
And clarifying just that we would continue fundraising efforts.
I'll put that in a second motion if the board feels comfortable with that, but I prefer the original motion to stand on its own.
Okay. Okay. Mark, are you okay?
I am.
In
That's
your
fine.
second? Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Okay, motion's approved. We'll go on to the second item, the Rivercrest Underpass Phase 2 preliminary design and authorized final design. Tim?
Okay, if you turn to page 18, you'll see an updated estimate of costs that's been put together by Stevens Engineers. And if you look at that next page over, it has the actual the extensions of the unit pricing. And you'll see with the option, there is the option of paving the trail in there. And so with that option in, the total is about $245,000, and that's the up-to-date cost. If you turn to the next page, page 20, we're getting this is very close to what the final design will look like. And Stevens has actually agreed to take us up to the construction documents for no additional charge. So they're giving some pro bono work here. But you can see where the underpass is located. It'll be just to the south and west of the school, and tying in with the YMCA property. Again, the culvert that's being proposed, it's a box type culvert. It's 8 by 10 in size, and it's about 70 feet long. So with that, if you have any questions.
Any questions for Tim? Mary?
I just want to add that at the last meeting, you approved this preliminary design to go forward, and at that time we talked about a cost of $8,000. That was divided between the Y camp and the school district, so each of us paid $4,000 for this design.
Correct.
Okay, so we're not asking for any additional funding. This is just to go forward with the final design work.
That's right.
Okay.
Well, Mr. Chair, I would make a motion then that that we approve the Phase 2 preliminary design of the County Road F underpass connecting Rivercrest Elementary and YMCA Camp St. Croix, and authorize Stevens Engineering to proceed with final design.
Second.
We have a motion by Dick, a second by Erica. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Motion's approved. Okay, thanks everyone. Thanks Bill and the YMCA for your efforts, and we'll go forward. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda, approval of the January 8, 2008 regular and closed session Board of Education meeting minutes.
Mr. President, hearing no changes, I move approval of the January 8, 2008 regular and closed session minutes.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion's approved.
Welcome back.
Okay. We have Tom Holland joining us again. Item number 9, correspondence.
Yes, we do have a couple of pieces of correspondence. We do have a thank you for flowers from Renee Sandberg, who had surgery. thank you for the plant that when Stephanie Churchill's father died, and then a thank you from the family of Luke Zeitlo, a student who passed away recently, and for that we're very sad. It's just been a sad year. And then also, I want to, in the correspondence, a letter from Tom Holland resigning his position as the chair of the Finance Committee and also as the treasurer of the board.
Okay, thanks, Cindy. We'll move on to the superintendent's report. Mary?
Thank you, Dan. I have a number of things to work through and make you aware of. First of all, we have drawn names for the order on the ballot of school board candidates. And those names start with Dan Chernahoy as first on the ballot, followed by Barb Van Lunen, and I don't think she's in the audience this evening. Then comes Erica Cherrier, incumbent, and Philip Katoski, and is Phil here? No. And then last is Lynn Robson, and Lynn is here, so we appreciate you attending, Lynn. We just met with the school board candidates, our non-incumbent candidates, just last night, and shared information about our work at the district office and the direction of the district, HSD 2025, and we had a very good discussion, great questions, and we're off and running. Election being April 1st. Secondly, should I just keep moving? Okay. It's my pleasure to recommend to you this evening for your approval a new North Hudson Elementary principal, Dolph Schmidt. Dolph, as you will remember, has been the school manager this year at North Hudson with support by Peg Shoemaker, who has been the acting principal. And knowing that school manager process as you do, you know we've gone through now a significant evaluation process of Dolph's work to date, and that's involved staff and parents and administrators. And Dolph has certainly demonstrated over a very short period of time, in fact, that he's a natural leader, he has high integrity, and that he's committed to the district's direction. He certainly earned the support of students, staff, parents, and administrators, and deserves to be promoted to the principal position at North Hudson starting July 1. He has taken over the reins, and really his work has included significant community building activities and work at the school, and also taken over the SMART goal work as well. And he's been progressing in this areas as the school has, and really moving forward. So he's really making a difference there. So Dolph has been, up to this year, a fourth grade teacher at Holton Elementary. He's taught in the district for 11 years. He has his master's degree in guidance and counseling and is in a principal licensure program, and will complete that in September. So we're very pleased, all of us, all the administrators are very pleased, and I know his school as well is very pleased. We announced to them, and the staff was just thrilled. I think parents too, that we recommend him for your approval as the new North Hudson principal starting July 1. And I'd like Dolph just to come forward and say a few words to the board as well.
I just want to say that I'm excited and honored to be the next principal at North Hudson Elementary. I can't say enough about the students, staff, and parents of the North Hudson community and their support and the work that they've done this year also. I also just want to say a couple things about the district having the initiative and the vision the risk-taking to try this model this year. I know that we had two unique situations with Pat Hodges doing a lot of work with Rivercrest and the late resignation at North Hudson, but to have a model like this to allow me to work under a master administrator and give this model a try, I think says a lot about how visionary our district is. And I think, I don't know if there will be another circumstance in the future where this might be something that you look at, but I just felt like it was a very, very beneficial model to use, and I feel fortunate to be in a district that would be willing to take a chance and have the initiative to try something like this. So I'm very excited to start. I'm excited about the time I have left to work with Peg Shoemaker and to continue to learn from her and the expertise that she has, along with my new colleagues as administrators in the district. And so I am very glad to be on board. Thank you.
Thanks, Dolph. Congratulations and good luck.
Moving right along, I also want to just have you take a look at the principal selection process timeline, and that should be at your places. For Hudson Prairie and Willow River, we have vacancies for next year. And as you know, we have been posting the Willow River, and we also were posting the North Hudson position until we selected Dolph to be the principal there. So we've added Hudson Prairie along with Willow River at the present time. We have an enormous number of candidates. In fact, the largest number of candidates for the principal's position that we have ever had. And I attribute that to two things. You'll remember that I said it was important for us timing-wise to be earlier in our principal selection process. And I think that creates a much stronger and hopefully larger pool. And also the work in HR, Nancy Sweet's work to have us go to an online system of application that goes across the state of Wisconsin has also created a larger pool. And so as of 4:15 today, we had 66 applicants, and they keep coming. We close our posting tomorrow. And just thinking about that 66 applications, our last principal position, we had about 30. So we are feeling very good about that candidate pool for both Hudson Prairie and Willow River. And we will starting through this process that we've used before. It includes telephone screening, first interview, reference checks, certainly second interview, writing response, leadership survey, a possible site visit, and then eventually we are looking at March 11th, your next meeting, to recommend principal candidates to you. Any questions about that process?
Any questions for Mary? If not, we'll move on.
Okay, the next thing is the second Friday in January enrollment. And I just wanted to, you have this information in your folders, but I wanted to make a few comments in relationship to last year's second Friday in January as well. The enrollment this year from September to January, our official count, represents a decrease of 24 students overall. And that is very common from September to January based on a number of things. Students who move out of the district, early graduations, can be an expulsion as well, and a number of factors. But it really doesn't mean anything unless you compare it to what's happened in the past. And so we had 24 this year. We're down 24. And last year, we were down 32. It's very, very similar when I look at how the numbers spread. This year at elementary, we're down 4, middle school down 1, and what we would expect and continues to be the pattern at the high school, we're down the most, but down 19 students is very minimal not even close to 1%. And last year, from September to January, we were down 18 students at the high school. So certainly very similar numbers that we've experienced in the past. Any questions about our enrollments? I also want to share with you information about basically a one-day training or conference that we are sponsoring in partnership with the Energy Center of Wisconsin, and this is going to occur on June 19th. And we have asked a number of partners to join us to do this. The purpose of this one-day training conference is really to help the design and construction community learn more about sustainable design and construction. And so the target audience is that design and construction community in both Wisconsin and in Minnesota. And we're going to be using Rivercrest as a teaching tool for this. Anderson Windows is going to hold this training session at their facility. So we're partnering with Anderson Windows. We're also partnering with St. Croix Institute for Sustainable Community Development, and that is out of UW River Falls. The Wisconsin Focus on Energy program that we've talked about before, and Xcel Energy. And certainly we've talked about Rivercrest as a teaching tool, and this is just one example that we believe it's a teaching tool not only for just our students and for our staff, but also for our community at large. And this is one way that we are helping our community learn more about sustainable design so that can be expanded to other facilities. Any questions on that one? Otherwise, I'll keep moving right along. All right, the next thing is 612 Space for Learning update. Let you know that we are moving forward with exploring options at the middle school that is over capacity, and we will be bringing those options to the Facilities and Grounds Committee at their next meeting at the end of February. So we're working on that for short-term space for learning at the middle school. And then you can anticipate in March at your next meeting, Hazel Reinhardt will be back with projections. She's taken our enrollments and projected them into the future, given the new data and new information. That's going to, you also approved a housing study as part of that report. So that will be a new enhancement that we have not had in the past. So that will come in March. And then I expect in April I'll be coming back to you looking at enrollment projections compared to our capacities at each of our schools. So moving forward with that. And then I would anticipate that one of the things that you would want to look at would be the Facilities Task Force recommendations, certainly in the near future. Moving right along, we have some exciting news. In the fall, I believe, we had 3 students come forward as semifinalists for the National Merit Scholarships, and it's great news for us that we now have those 3 students have moved up to finalists and National Merit. And so certainly we're very, very proud of those students. And they are Michael Harper, Cynthia Kosick, and then Josh Koch-Fogarty. We certainly congratulate them. It's exciting for them, for their families, and certainly for all their teachers who have helped them learn and prepare and reach this great accomplishment that they'll be able to take advantage as they move on and graduate from Hudson High School.
Thank you. Any questions for Mary? Thanks for that report, Mary. We'll move on then to topics for action. The first item, as was announced earlier, Tom Holland stepped down as the treasurer, and so now we're looking for someone to fill that vacancy. I believe...
well, I would submit a name. I would nominate Mark Kaiserschott to become treasurer of the school board.
Okay.
And I would second that nomination.
We have a motion nominating Mark and a second. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. And Mark, that's a role you're familiar
I
with.
am, Dan.
Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Does he also become chair of the Finance Committee then?
We're not going that far.
Okay.
Whose side do you want?
We'll move on to the Rivercrest Master Site Plan, carpool plan, and lead resolution. Mary?
You have all the documents in your materials, and at your places, there are maps that are larger than the ones that you received, so you might want to take those out. This evening, as part of the LEED certification requirements for Rivercrest, we need to approve a resolution that really sets this master plan, a site plan in place for Rivercrest. And there are various pieces to it that you can see. We talk about Rivercrest as a teaching tool, and I can tell you from our work on Rivercrest and the design and construction, it has been a teaching tool for those of us who are working on that facility and learning. One of the things in your materials, for example, is a school carpooling plan. And the Facilities and Grounds Committee has looked at this, and we will be implementing this carpooling plan at Rivercrest. And essentially there's a couple reasons that it's very important to us as we move into the future. Certainly it reduces the impact, the carbon impact on our environment, but it also does something else for us that is extremely important, and that helps increase safety around our schools. We have a number of parents who continue to have the opportunity to take their students to school, which is great, but yet we have so many cars with children and one driver in those cars, and we really need to help support our schools to work in carpools, to reduce how many cars come to the school and to increase the safety at the school. That has been issues in many of our schools. So we're going to start with this carpool plan at Rivercrest, and then our hope is to learn from that and then expand it at our other schools and promote carpooling across the district in the future. So that's one feature. And Justin Yoder is here from Hoffman. He's going to talk about the master site plan and answer any questions you have in regard to that. Our purpose this evening is to pass the resolution that's in front of you, or to take action on the resolution that we're recommending to you, which sets in place the pieces on the site plan that Justin's going to point out in a few minutes. So, Justin.
All right. Thank you. I just want to go through some of the items on the site master plan, and I just want to reiterate that beyond just being good for everything that Mary had pointed out is that there are a number of different LEED credits that are encompassed within the master plan. So the approval of this master plan is essentially the approval of the ability to document a number of different LEED credits. I'll just point out on the master plan, on the overall master plan, there are, is there an outdoor classroom, the trail, there is prairie grass area, there is an open space area that is including the ball fields and play areas. There's also the high occupancy vehicle parking spaces that Mary pointed out as part of the parking plan. There are also fuel efficient vehicle parking spaces noted on the plan. There are a general large area of the site that you'll see is designated as protected and restored habitat area, which will be incorporated into that curriculum that you were talking about earlier as part of the environmental sustainable curriculum. And the maximizing open space on the site, there's a zoning requirement for open space for the city of Hudson. Part of the LEED requirements is to exceed that open space requirement. So the following documents, the other 4 documents that you have in front of you, Exhibits 1A through 1D, explain each of those LEED credits in further detail. I won't go into the very specifics of each one of those, but I would offer that if you have any questions on them, I'd be more than willing to answer them.
Are there any questions for Justin regarding what's in your board packet. If not,
I just would
Mary?
like to make one comment on this and just really credit, excuse me, Dick Minnick for his work on this site plan. Certainly, we started that very early on. He challenged Hoffman, our architects, to look at various ways the school could be placed on the plan, and we found the best placement on this site so that we could preserve a large portion of the site and also use the rest of the site as teaching spaces for our children. So I just thank Dick for his work on this.
You're much too gracious. Definitely a team effort.
One comment.
Right.
We're talking about all this, the LEED and the environmental sustainability. Are we going to fully implement a recycling program with our new school?
We have a recycling committee that has started. Certainly, that will be a component at the school. We haven't gone through with the details at this point, but do you want to hit that, Justin?
I was actually going to add to that. Wow, this mic is powerful. Sorry. Actually, one of the lead credit areas is actually there's a requirement to have storage and collection of recycling within the school. So Rivercrest will have a recycling program, and the facilities committee has been looking at that, and I believe Jim has approved as far as what he needs out of that, and the rest of the committee
Good.
as well.
I think it's an opportunity for our district because I don't think we have one right now.
Well, we do have one. We are not implementing it as well as we would need to, so I think your point's well taken, but we do have one at the present time.
All right, well, let's implement it then. I mean,
that's why we've started this recycling committee. The other point that I just wanted to make, which is about recycling, and it's a great point that you make, Brian, and that is just 75% of the waste on the construction site is being recycled. So recycling is starting at Rivercrest even before the building is built.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Mary. And yeah, I'd like to echo Brian's comments. I'm hoping that all of the schools, follow what's going on at Rivercrest, not only with recycling but energy efficiency, just so that this is sort of an attitude that we take on as a school district. Any more, Justin?
I don't have anything further, so if there's not any further questions, I'll...
Board members?
Yeah, just for the record, when you talk about recycling, reusing is better and reducing first use is better than that. So I just wanted to put in a plug for less paper and more reuse and to make that as high a priority as recycling. And thank you for the beautiful documents. It's just so... They're so clear. They're so easy to understand, even for somebody who doesn't look at construction documents. So thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Cindy. I'll entertain a motion for approval of the Rivercrest Master Site Plans, Carpool Plan, and Lead Resolution.
Well, Mr. Chair, I'm delighted to make that motion, and the motion will be in our attempt for the Hudson School District to continue to hopefully be the first LEED certified elementary school in the state of Wisconsin. I would recommend that the school board approve the Rivercrest Elementary School Master Plan, elementary school presented or dated February 12, 2008. And then with the accompanying exhibits of Exhibit 1A, 1B, 1C, and 1D.
second.
I think I have an amendment.
Just an addition.
What's the addition that you want read in?
You just need to read the resolution.
Oh, you want the resolution, the whole resolution. We are going to be legalese for a moment. Okay, so as an amendment to my motion, I will read into the record, whereas the Hudson School District desires leadership in energy and environmental design certification for the new Rivercrest Elementary School, whereas the Hudson School District has land on this elementary school site that it is using for open space, whereas the Hudson School District has land it is protecting and restoring, Whereas the Hudson School District has land on this elementary school site that it is using for outdoor education, therefore be resolved that the Hudson School Board is designating that area site development dash restored and protected on the master site plan set aside for protection for biodiversity and wildlife habitat pursuant to lead credit SS 5.1, parens per Exhibit 1A, and SS Credit 9, parens per Exhibit 1C. This area has been protected and or restored. And therefore be resolved that the school board is designating that area as site development dash maximize open space on the master site plan set aside for open space, and this open space will be conserved for the life of the building pursuant to lead credit SS 5.2, parens per Exhibit 1B, and SS Credit 9, parens per Exhibit 1D. Date of the resolution, February 12th, 2008.
Okay, Brian, are you willing to withdraw your second? And
Withdraw my second.
And then do you wish to?
I'll second
to amend.
You want to rescind new motion?
Okay, so we have
second Dick's amended motion.
Okay, so we have Dick's motion, and then we have a second by Brian.
Should we second Brian's amended second?
Is there any additional discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. We'll move on to topics for action. Item C, fresh fruits and vegetables for the elementary students. Barbara, are you?
Not quite a change. Thanks, Justin, for coming. Safe travels.
Do you want to give an intro while we're waiting for that?
We'll go ahead and get started. You have the mini version in your packet, so you can start with that.
Barbara, can you go to the microphone,
I'm sorry.
please?
Is that better?
Yeah. Much better.
Okay. You have a mini version of this in your packet, so until we can get things going.
26.
There, I think we're coming up there. Last year, there was a pilot program at EP Rock Elementary School that involved a fresh fruit and vegetable plan, and it was used as a snack. And the program was actually part of the state. We were one of 25 schools that were selected in the state of Wisconsin to be part of this grant, and there are actually only 6 states in the country that were part of this plan. Why is it not showing? We've got it here, though. Okay. All right. I'll keep going. The central focus of the plan was to encourage children to consume more fruits and vegetables. Coupled with that was to increase children's willingness to try fruits and vegetables that were grown by Wisconsin farmers, and perhaps some things that they had not eaten before. So that was the premise of the whole thing. And in fact, they found that there was additional willingness to try at school, but there wasn't additional willingness to try outside of the school environment. The question that was raised by the board, and I believe this came from Tom, I could be mistaken on that, but I believe it was Tom who asked, could we have this program in fact continue, and if so, at what cost? So that's exactly what Peggy and I took a look at. There are 2 major factors we need to take a look at. The fresh fruit and vegetable plan that is offered right now with the child nutrition program is part of lunch. Within that, there's no additional cost to the students. It's part of the entitlement program, and the cost, whatever there might be, is absorbed within the child nutrition program, and as I said, is part of entitlements. And it's open-ended in terms of there are a variety of choices available to students. And after the pilot program at Rock, there were actually trays of both fresh fruits and vegetables that students could select from on a daily basis. Okay? The second breakdown option is having the fresh fruit and vegetables strictly as a snack. In other words, not as part of the lunch program. That cost would be approximately 40 to 45 cents per student per day. That was our estimate, which would be a total cost of $183,000 for all of the existing elementary schools. What that cost would cover would be not only the product, because it would not be eligible for entitlement, it would also include whatever packaging we might need and the labor that would be necessary to prepare that packaging for individuals to have their individual portion. What we did to see what the parents had to say about this is we sent a survey home in the Thursday folders, and we got 467 responses to that survey through the elementary schools. And we asked about paying an additional fee, and would parents, in fact, be willing to do that to have a snack. And you'll see that there's overwhelming positive responses from the parents in all of the existing buildings to, in fact, accept that as an option. Additional information that needed to be considered with that option is, what about those students who qualify for free and reduced lunch? Where do they stand in this whole package? And what that would mean is there's approximately 250 students that could be involved. That would be an approximate expense then of $20,000, and that the snack would be available in conjunction with the milk break rather than as a second break to minimize the removal from opportunities to learn. In other words, we don't want to reduce the learning and instructional day by having additional food break. And lastly, those children who do not participate in the snack program could always bring their own snacks from home, just as many of the kids choose to do right now, okay, for a variety of reasons. All right, so simultaneous to the survey with the parents, we did an informal survey with the child nutrition staff and learned, in fact, what children choose when they are given options. And on the left column, which is in green, you'll see the most popular fruits that children select. And when provided the options, they choose fresh grapes, oranges, and cantaloupe. The most popular canned or frozen are applesauce, strawberries, mandarin oranges, and pineapple. Their least popular was kiwi. This was served in wedges, and it still had the brown skin on it. We're not sure if the brown skin was offensive or if they didn't know what it was, maybe a combination. And whole apples were not selected. So one of the things we're going to recommend is have apples as portions rather than the whole apple to see if that makes a difference. The other least popular fruits were peaches, pears, and fruit cocktail. All right, then we looked at the vegetables, and again, the most popular are outlined in green. And the most popular were carrots, followed by lettuce, and that's not just your iceberg, that's spinach, that's romaine and variety lettuce, and fresh cucumbers. Most popular canned and frozen vegetable was corn, followed by broccoli with cheese sauce, and green beans. Then if you look at the least popular of vegetables, you'll see that green peppers do not go over well with little people, nor does cauliflower, nor does fresh broccoli. So I guess we must cook it and put cheese sauce on it to have it be a selection. Canned and frozen peas were not a selection either in terms of a canned or frozen option. And then the California blend, or the broccoli, cauliflower, and carrot blend together, was also something that children didn't choose. Perhaps it's mixing things together that's not appealing. It's hard to know. All right, so where does that bring us now? For the remainder of this school year, and we have about $2,000 left for the ROC program, but separate from that, what we plan to do, according to Peggy, and feel free to ask Peggy questions, or she can certainly interject, but we're going to have unlimited opportunity that kids can get fruits and vegetables, but we're going to limit the numbers that they can take at any one given time to reduce waste. What we found is there was more waste with the kindergarten to grade 2. I think its eyes are bigger than tummies. And they're also in a hurry sometimes to get outside when it's pleasant weather, and so if somebody else is running outside, they're going to leave those carrot sticks and perhaps broccoli behind. We're also going to use the $2,000 that are left from the from the grant at Rock to do some things that were unique to that building. They did use monies to buy red ribbon fruit strips last November to celebrate the Red Ribbon Week. They have one of the people from the child nutrition program in the building have gone into various classrooms and prepared recipes, and kids sampled, and then they did an evaluation of whether they liked it or not, and these items could potentially be added to the child nutrition menus in the future, and that's the fresh tomato and pita chip salad, as well as the frosty Orangelicious, which I understand was quite popular with fifth graders. And then they haven't quite decided what they're going to do, but there'll be some unique feature as a food offering as part of the Rock's anniversary celebration. The other thing that Rock plans to do is introduce new foods such as jicama, and they would have a poster or a chart, something that would explain how it's grown, where it comes from, how one could use it in recipes, and then have samples there so that kids can actually try it. And other buildings tried. Willow River, for example, had an ethnic foods week so that children could sample different things throughout a week and know that the foods came from various countries, which is something that could continue in other buildings. Last but not least is our recommendation of offering the snack parallel with the milk, and that it would then be at a cost of 52 cents, slightly more than we anticipated when we did the survey, but that is in fact our recommendation to the board tonight, so that we can continue to offer fruits and vegetables daily to those students and families who are interested. If you have questions or comments, Peggy and I will be glad to respond.
Board members have any questions regarding this program? Mark?
Yeah, I did, Dan. Thanks. Peggy, and if you could just kind of run this by me one more time. I may not have been paying attention, so I apologize. But what's the scenario for the free and reduced kids? How does that?
That would be incorporated in the cost. That would be covered. We would absorb that cost. The department would absorb the cost for those.
In its entirety?
Yeah.
So there'd be no cost to those kids?
Okay. Out of its existing budget?
Yeah. It's built into the cost that we're charging for the fruits and vegetables.
Okay.
Yeah.
And would this be, would it continue with the way the grant was designed to introduce new and different things? Or would it focus on the favorite picks?
The problem I see with, I would like to still provide nutrition education in that sort of a separate entity, but in order to get kids to participate, they've got to, and be able to fund it with the, they have to be able to purchase it. And as a parent, I don't know that I want to spend 52 cents on jicama that I know my child is not going to eat. So what we would try to do is do some nutrition education along with that, but we would probably be using most of the popular ones to keep participation up.
Peggy, is there any other potential grant funding available for something like this, or have you already exhausted that?
Interesting you should ask. Just as I was leaving my office tonight, I got a DPI email that said that they are proposing fruit and vegetable grant applications. They don't even have the material put together yet, but that we can anticipate some grant money coming forward, and that schools that had already participated in this would be eligible to participate again, so you can be sure that we'll be applying for that grant money.
Yeah, just one more. What does a school lunch cost at the elementary level?
$1.60.
$1.60.
Which, if Tim was here, he would tell you that's a very low cost in comparison to our neighboring districts.
Do we know why that is? Why are we getting such a deal? You know?
I like to think it's good management.
Well, it probably is, Peggy, I'm sure. I wanted to give you the opportunity to state that. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, we have the fresh fruits and vegetables for the elementary school, so I'll entertain a motion for approval of this nutrition program.
What are we making a motion on? I'm still a little confused, to tell you the truth. It's just incremental dollars. I don't quite understand what we're making a motion to do.
Well, it would be to approve this program for next year, to offer to parents to purchase fruit and vegetables as part of the snack.
Correct.
So this would be added to the snack.
Correct.
Because
It would be
right
an
now, they don't
option.
have that option.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, and so it's no incremental cost except for free and reduced lunch? Could be, otherwise the cost is borne by the parent?
Yes. The cost is borne by the program itself, yes, by the cost that you see in front of you.
Are they going to be able to pay for that when they pay for their lunch? Like each?
I see this working as when they go for milk break right now, they go through and the childs are checked off for the milk that they want to purchase, and then that's billed back to their account. We would just have another line for snacks. So if a child came through and they picked up the snack and a milk, we'd charge them for both of those. And if they didn't choose the snack, then they would just get charged for the milk.
All right, so we're really making a motion for the $20,000 estimate for free and reduced lunch. Is that the actual cost of the district?
No, it's not the actual cost to the district. There isn't any additional cost to the
It
district.
was my understanding, Brian, that was part of the 52 cents, that free and reduced program was part of that.
So there's no
that
additional
amount.
cost
No.
to the district?
It's all self-funding, right?
Okay.
We're certainly hoping not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, as long as enough people participate, it will be completely self-funding.
Okay.
Well, I have a question for the chair and also probably then for the speaker. I've been under the understanding that the entire program has been self-funding.
Our fund?
The
Fund 50 or
the
lunch?
school lunch program
School,
is
yes.
self-funded.
Yes, it is.
Right.
So I move to approve the fruits and vegetable program.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion's approved. Peggy and Barbara, thank you for that
you.
presentation. We'll move on to consent items. Personnel, the CISA contract, and does somebody have the expenditures amount? Expenditures in the amount of $3,349,743.49.
I'll move the consent agenda.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
We have a second. Any discussion?
Question?
Question?
One of the consent items is the approval of principal position appointment. Is there any, can you describe what the contingencies are for the rare event that the candidate would not complete his principal licensure in the fall?
Well, there is the option, well, I guess it's not an option. There is a one-year license that can be obtained from DPI as long as you can prove, I believe, a position, Nancy, I'm not and also that you can complete the program within a year. I'm not sure of all of the details, but it's something like that, Cindy.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion's approved. We'll move on to reports. Nancy's going to bring us up to speed on the 0809 elementary school status.
Yes, I'll give just a very brief status report, and I suspect I'll be reporting to you a couple times again before school opens in the fall, but you have in your packet pages 35 through 38, and page 35 is reflects the current 2008-09 student enrollment without growth, but it does update that enrollment by school consistent with the boundaries that you approved January 8th, and it also includes the enrollment shift from building to building in respect to boundary exceptions. That process started the day after you approved the attendance boundaries, and for 3 weeks the district received boundary exception requests. We received over 100 such requests. That's pretty high. But when we opened Hudson Prairie 10 years ago, there were quite a few boundary exception requests at that time as well. We were able to, the elementary principals and I actually took a full day and processed those requests. And we were able at this time to look at grades 1 through 5. And we were able to approve over 60 of those approximately 100 or so requests while staying within the class size guidelines, while allowing for a certain measure of growth, more in some buildings than in others, and while adding no new staff, which was a criteria from the beginning. We will be considering the kindergarten boundary exception requests later this week, and we'll know those registrations the middle of this week. So at that point in time, we'll be able to put the letters together, and we'll be able to get out to the parents the decisions regarding the boundary exception requests. We do have approximately 30 students on waiting lists, and what we will do there is that we will be waiting until July approximately. The July board meeting will be bringing to you a status report at that time, and we'll be considering new students who will have moved into all of our elementary boundaries by that time, hopefully, and some that will have moved out that we didn't know about. So it will tell us whether we need additional sections of classes in our buildings, and at that time, if we do add for growth, then we can accept more of those boundary exception requests. You can see on page 35 the particular enrollments by building, and in our largest facilities, EP Rock, we will be using 20 of the 24 classes for an enrollment of over 400. Hudson Prairie will start out using 23 of the 24 for an enrollment of over 500, and Rivercrest will begin using 21 of the 24 for an enrollment of over 475. I did include for you a couple of related information just as an update. Memo from Barbara Rapoon, Director of Student Services, which gives you kind of a look at the placement of special programs. She made a decision after the boundaries were adopted to move one of the special programs out of Prairie to provide more space in that facility. You were concerned about fifth grade student boundary exceptions, and I show you the status of that on page 37. And then on page 38, you were concerned about siblings. This isn't the full picture yet, because some of the sibling requests involve kindergarten students. So we'll be taking a look. There's about 10 of them that we'll be taking a look at once we know the kindergarten registrations. And it was our interest, and you reinforced that we keep families together. So even in terms of the waiting lists, if we have a child in the family approved as a boundary exception to a particular grade level, and the parent requested another child, and there wasn't room in that grade level, that child was given preference toward the top of the list for the waiting list. So that's where we are right now, and I'll entertain questions if you have any.
What was the nature of the requests for those that were approved on the boundary?
Well, from the beginning, we said verbally and also in writing the preference was given to those that were already attending the schools that they were requesting to continue in the following year. So that's one of the priorities, and the other priority would have been the sibling priority.
So of the 60 that were approved, the majority of those fell into that criteria?
They did. They did. Yep.
Nancy, thank you so much for all the hard work. Thank your staff, too, for everything that you guys have done.
Well, it's ongoing.
I know, and I know it's a lot of work.
We keep moving along here, and
I made it harder for you, and I know that, but I just really am grateful that you've put the time and the energy into making this a good experience for our families.
Thank you. Well, I'll keep you up to date. Any other questions at all? Okay.
Thank you, Nancy. We'll move on to committee reports. Facilities and Grounds Committee, Dick?
Well, I can make this real brief. Essentially, most of the items that you had in front of you tonight relating to Rivercrest or YMC Camp St. Croix and the underpass really constituted the bulk of our time. Just took a quick look at upcoming projects for the summer. We did talk about the school forest that came in front of you tonight, and then we talked about improvements at the middle school athletic field. The bleachers will be going in this spring, matter of fact, maybe even before spring. Footings are in, I think, just really probably within the next 60 days the bleachers will be going in. And keep in mind those are funds that were raised by the soccer boosters. And then talked about additional improvements out there, i.e. scoreboard, possible lighting, phasing that type of development in. And then there will be a storage building, kind of a multi-purpose storage building constructed this summer. And that'll be track and soccer and football, any type of outdoor activity, including for the class schedules for Phi Ed. I think that was pretty much it. I would rely on either Tom or Eric if I missed something.
I would just mention that we talked a little bit about setting criteria and determining decisions around which projects to prioritize. And staff are going to go back. I think there's been some policy, or maybe not policy, but some practices in the past that we might use as a model.
Okay. Thanks, Dick. We'll move on to the Personnel Committee. Mark?
Yes, Dan. Well, the Personnel Committee met last week. At the top of our agenda was the 08-09 staffing process and criteria. And I guess a couple things that I want to note about that is that the process that we looked at, was proposed by administration and that we endorsed, really is going towards meeting the board's desire to examine these requests as a whole. In the past, it's been, somewhat of a fragmented process, I guess, and this is sort of to look at it as one whole entity, if you will, and to prioritize our staffing needs. Along those lines, I guess I want to say that it's a very much a collaborative process involving principals and administrators, and they'll have to demonstrate need, and including, I might add, examining the reallocation of current resources to meet those needs prior to actually assuming that new staffing will be coming on. And then I think what's an important piece is that this will then, once these staffing things have been determined, these positions, the Finance Committee will actually first examine what can be supported by way of a staffing budget, and then that will go back, and so and then the principals and administrators will look at that again and try to determine their needs and recommendations, and then the Personnel Committee will then look at that in light of the budget to determine what positions we can be staffed. So I think it's a really well outlined and thoughtful process, and hopefully will meet our needs. We also discussed the elementary teacher reassignment, and I think that Nancy spoke to us a little bit earlier. rather extensive survey that I think has to be back by next Monday. Teachers putting their preferences and where they have certifications, et cetera. Obviously, the goal in all this, first and foremost, is to meet the needs of our students and to provide, as uniform programming as we can district-wide. But certainly, to alleviate teachers' concerns, their interests will be, highly valued and considered. Obviously, no guarantees, but there's being considerable weight giving to what their preferences are. We do need to balance experience and leadership across our district. That's a given, and that will be the first goal. And then, in conjunction with that, if we can put teachers where they desire to be, we'll certainly do that. But their thoughts will be considered in the process. The elementary principal selection process for Willow River and Prairie, we talked about that earlier, and happy, of course, to welcome Mr. Schmidt on board at North Hudson. And then we followed that up with a closed session discussing some non-renewals and the bargaining of the teacher's contract.
Any questions for Mark? Thank you, Mark. I'll briefly touch on the Finance Committee meeting. We've already gone over, Mark touched on some of the staffing pieces associated with the budget. We covered the underpass, which we've already talked about, and the committee was supportive of going forward with that. And then Tim sort of led us through a discussion of the very early stages of the budget process, and the committee's going to continue to look at that and get additional information from Tim on the development of the budget. And we also looked at the budgetary goals. If you recall, last year we developed some goals to stay within a certain percentage of the budget, and there are a list of some other goals that were budget related that we developed last year. And so we took a look at that, and I believe the administration is going to work on that and come back to the Finance Committee with some recommendations for us to review. So for the most part, that was it. Mark, did I leave anything out?
Covered it well, Dan.
Okay. Any questions on that? If not, we've had some citizen requests to speak earlier in the agenda. I know Kurt spoke on the underpass, and he also indicated he wanted to just speak generally regarding the school board. Is Kurt here? No? Okay. Then, with that, board administrator response to public comments. Anybody wish to? Okay. We'll move on then to the closed session. Item on the agenda pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19.851 B and C for the purpose of preliminary consideration of non-renewal of employees and E, discussion of bargaining of teacher contract. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, we'll do a roll call. Erica?
Carrier, aye.
Holland, aye.
Kaisershot, aye.
Minnick, aye.
Chernahoy, aye.
Crimmins, aye.
Bell, aye.
Okay, thanks, board members. Thank you for all those that came to the meeting tonight.
Thanks to our dedicated techno guy up there. That's energy efficient.
Okay, we will reconvene into open session. Nancy will provide us with a recommendation.
Okay. I will recommend that the board vote to ratify the agreement between the School District of Hudson and the West Central Education Hudson Unit, which are our teachers in the school district, as discussed in the closed session.
So moved.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Well, Dan, I'd like to just make a couple quick comments. anytime you enter into a contract negotiation, it's never an easy process, and I don't think there's ever really a clear winner. But I think in this case, the district gave a little bit, the teachers union gave a little bit, but this is a good agreement, and it does save the taxpayers of the district some money in the long term, and I think we've accomplished what we set out to do as a school board. And I would definitely compliment the teachers union. They came to the table from everything I've heard from our bargaining team, and a very cordial process, a very diligent process, and so I think we should recognize the efforts of the teachers union as well to bargain in good faith for successful completion of this contract.
I think it's important to recognize that, nobody gets everything they wanted, but in this contract negotiation, the teachers actually did agree to give up some things that they had before, and I think that's a hard thing to do, and I think it's really important that that we as a board acknowledge that they are really partners with us in this educational endeavor that we're all engaged in, and they see the importance of being a good player in that goal. And so I just wanted to say thank you to the teachers for the things that they were willing to give up so that we could all move this contract forward and get to some places that will be really good for all of us, them and us. So thanks.
Let me just touch on some of the highlights associated with this agreement. There's the increase in the salaries for the teachers. 0708 amounts to 3.24%, and then 0809 is a 3.73% increase. Recognizing with the increase, it provides the school district the ability to remain competitive in both Wisconsin and Minnesota districts. It also recognizes the contributions of our teachers, as well as also recognizing our goal to raise the expectations for student learning and to implement the SMART goals. So along with the increase, certainly we recognize the additional efforts and expectations of the school district. As Dick mentioned, the trade-offs certainly are the district was able to achieve some benefits associated with being able to cap health insurance premiums, and as a result of that, we're able to control the district costs in the long term. Health insurance costs have been reduced due to a change in the plan, so teachers are looking at a different plan under this new contract. There was an increase in the deductibles, both for the single and family coverage, and then the post-employment health insurance benefits were eliminated for the new teachers. However, beginning in year 5 of employment, this is relating to the new teachers, the district will contribute to a tax advantage defined contribution plan, which also reduces the district's cost over a longer term. Health insurance cost savings with the above noted reductions are estimated at approximately $500,000 in the second year. Nancy or Mary, are there any other components that?
I think you've hit the highlights. Certainly I want to recognize Nancy Sweet's work and Tim Erickson's work on behalf of the district to negotiate with the teachers. I think they have spent the time and energy to make this, to accomplish the goals of the board and the benefits to the district, and recognize how this helps us, and recognize the teacher's contribution as well. And certainly we want to thank Scott Ellingson and the negotiation team for their work with us to make this a contract that we all can see benefits from, and also have benefits that are financial for the district.
Okay, thank you. With that, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed, motion is approved. Thank you.
Move to adjourn. Adjourned.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thanks, everyone.